What's going on, everyone? It is the DERF. We are just under 14 days until the end of the current episode. So I put together a great build for your favorite warlock. It is a powerful Void and Strand combination. It's I can't believe more people aren't talking about it. I know people do talk about it, but it is one of those extremely fun, spammy type builds that will give you a ton of orbs, get your super back extremely quick, and be extremely useful with both the artifact build as well as just about every kind of situation you can find yourself in, along with the ability to make it so that you can take on end game activities. So, without further ado, let's get on into it. For this Prismatic Warlock, I've got the Strand Super Needle Storm. It has one of the lower bases for cooldown at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Don't worry though, as with all my videos, we get our super back within 60 seconds. Plus or minus, I'll give it 5. But depending on the activity that you're running, 8 minutes is absolutely not going to be what you're going to get your super back as. As far as abilities, you can use whatever you want, but the focus here for me personally is on Strand. So for the Rift, I've got the Healing Rift and the Burst Glide. Those two just work for me the best. And because I want this to be mainly Strand based, I am going with the Arcane Needle as well as the Threadling Grenade. Now you're going to get both of these back. Says 2 minutes and 2 minutes. It's going to be way less than that. As far as aspects go, Weaver's Call, activating your class ability weaves the threadlings to deploy, and whatever doesn't get used gets perched on your side. Second aspect is Feed the Void, defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. That means Arcane Needle, that means the Threadling Grenades. You will get Devour on your weapons. As far as fragments go, I got the Facet of Awakening, plus 10 to Resilience. I'm taking advantage of that in my stat distribution, rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage, or Super Final Blows, generate an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. Next up, we've got the Facet of Purpose, picking up an Orb of Power, grants either Amplified Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. So I'm going to be getting Woven Mail, which is extremely powerful, especially when it comes to you surviving the elements out there. Next up, we got the Facet of Honor, collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a tangle grants Transcendence energy of the same type. I'm taking advantage of this one, plus 10 to Strength as well. Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc Solar or Void buff ability, Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendent energy. So light buffs include Amplified Cure, Radiant, Restoration, Devour, Invisibility, and Overshield. We're going to touch on that a little bit here once I leave this screen. Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. And we're going to take a ton of advantage of that. As far as stat distribution goes, I overshot resilience a little bit, but you can see I've got T10 in resilience, T10 in grenades, or discipline, and I got a T9 in intellect. Now, I could make this triple 100s, but as you'll see, I'll scan over the stats in the next screen when we go through the armor. I'm not going to miss out on the few second difference between getting my super at the given time versus waiting another 5 seconds. 5 seconds doesn't really affect me in the way that I play. But, if it does affect you, you can build your armor however you prefer. As far as the recovery, yes, I know it's in that lower T3 range, but there's a fix for that, so stay tuned here. I'm going to go through the armor first. Now, this is a Strand build, but it's going to be centered around Nezarek's Sin. Void damage kills increase ability, energy, recharge rate. Now, there's some speculation on how fast your abilities recharge, but the running theory behind it is you get your super back 200% faster and all of your abilities 300% faster. Now, I know that Nuzurexen has gone through its fair share of mainly nerfs. It's rarely ever gotten a buff. But if you pair this with a Void Add Clear weapon, it's really not going to matter. The little bit of differences and the nerfs and the buffs and whatever else has come along, you're going to get all your abilities back. But the reason you want to build it centered around this is because you're going to run a Void Energy weapon and basically bank all of your skill regeneration off of that. As far as mods go, I've got the Heavy Ammo Finder. Always appreciative of finding a brick on the ground of heavy ammo. I've got Void Siphon. Now, you'll see this has 3 energy costs. The reason this has 3 energy costs is because my Harmonic Siphon is paired with my Equip Super. So that's going to give me the Strand Orbs of Power. The Strand Weapon Final Blows Orbs of Power because I don't have the Nova Bomb equipped. So I got to spend 3 energy on the Void Siphon. Not exactly the most economic way to mod out your helmet, but if you focus your armor the right way, usually what you should only need would be a +3 to your discipline, a 3 energy cost discipline mod. So you're pretty much flexible in these 3 over here. And because it's the exotic, I've got a little bump to my intellect just to get me into the T9 range because I was at 88. As far as as far as the gauntlets go, again, I've got to spend 3 energy on the Void Loader, whereas normally I would have the Harmonic. Now, the difference is 1 energy. So in this instance, the way that I have this modded up, it doesn't really matter because I've only got a small bump to my discipline, 1 energy cost as opposed to the 3 that you might want to run if you want to dump a little bit of extra stats into your intellect, or maybe even a different one. I've got discipline here. You could also throw this into mobility if you want to move around a little bit faster, although I don't really think it matters with as low as I've got, but I don't ever find myself lacking in competition. I've also got the firepower. That's a 3 energy cost mod. Your grenade final blows generate orbs of power. Obviously, the threadlings, they seek out their grenade, or they seek out their targets. So again, this is just going to benefit to you getting some orbs, getting your super back, getting your abilities back as quickly as possible. Next, I've got the heavy-handed, another 3 energy cost mod, but your powered melee final blows create orbs of power. This is extremely useful. If you love the arcane needle like I do, you're going to be using it all the time. And not to mention, you've got more than one in your magazine, so to speak, of abilities that you can spam all at once if you really need to. As far as the chest armor goes, you can see I haven't actually taken advantage of all 10 energy slots, but another plus 3 energy cost, plus 10 to discipline here. These 2, you're going to switch in and out for whatever damage resistance you may need. Now, you could switch these on the fly. If you're just running Vanguard strikes and you load into, let's just say, the Arms Dealer, you might want to trade out this arc resistance for double solar resistance. That's totally up to you, or maybe an arc, a void resistance with a solar resistance because of the snipers that the Cabal use. As far as what I've got here, you can put on whatever you want as far as the reserves. They're all costs of 2 energy across the board. So whatever heavy weapon you really want to use can be inserted here if you want. But because I'm running Strand heavy, I've got the Strand reserves. So it's just going to bump up the amount of ammunition that I can carry for that. As far as the legs go, again, I got another bump to discipline. I am also still running double absolution. Now, you 100% don't need to run double absolution if you think that's a waste of a slot. You can run Void Weapon Surge, or you can run Strand Weapon Surge. Either way, you can't go wrong. It's decaying armor charge, or it's a decaying charge, decaying buff to your damage. But if you're just running generalized content, I don't really think you're going to need any of these. This would really only be if you're running like a raid boss or something where you know you're going to be getting orbs of power absorbed right as soon as damage phase starts. So, but if you wanted to put this on and just play around with it, absolutely, I think it's worth your while. And then I've got Harmonic Scavenger. So here we do. I got the Harmonic Scavenger modded out. So I'm going to get more bang for my buck every time that I pick up an ammo break. As far as the Warlock bond, now here I've just got a little bump to intellect just to get me into the T9 range. With that, I basically free up these 3 slots to do whatever I want. I've got Reaper, which is super important. Anytime you use your class ability, your next weapon found below spawns an orb of power. That does not mean you have to hit or kill 2 enemies in a row. This is your first enemy, gives you an orb of power. So get that free orb of power and start buffing your recovery. So recovery, normally what I do is I run font restoration, and then I'll put time dilation on here. Just kind of with how Bungie has been kind of taking away the fun of a lot of activities. Those orbs of power, in my opinion, are more powerful now than ever, and you are desperately wanting to get your orbs collected. But if you've noticed in strikes, there's been an increase in enemies. I just ran a battleground, and by the end of it, the 3 of us, we had a combined 472 enemies, and it was like the shortest battleground mission that you could have. So I'll post a picture of that right here. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to want those orbs of power. Maybe you're not going to have the amount of time to run around and pick them up. Maybe you just want to collect them in your immediate area so you can get your buffs going, and maybe another, if you're waiting for your ability to regenerate. That's what's going to, I think it's going to be a better play, especially with how enemy heavy now some of these strikes seem to be. As far as the weapons go, now this is how I have it built. I like things to synergize. So I've got my primary and I've got my heavy matching in elements. Now, this build really only works with a with a dark subclass modification. So what I mean by that is you wouldn't put Nezarec Sin with like a solar super or like an arc super. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, because then you're missing out on synergy with one of these 2 weapons. So safe bet is to go with the darkness energy, obviously prismatic. You're going to be getting transcendence energy pretty much anytime you're firing a weapon on both sides of the spectrum with the buffs that we have, with the fragments that we have selected in our subclass. So this really only makes sense if you're running Nezarec Sin with Graviton. So if for some reason you've been living under a rock and you don't know who or what Graviton is, I encourage you to go get it. If you are one of those savvy veterans that has almost 40,000 kills with their Graviton and thinks it's awesome, then you already know the potency of this weapon as well as this exotic. Any void kill gives you that ability energy back. So earlier I said that I wasn't worried about missing out on the few seconds of my intellect. Here you can see the difference in getting my super back is in fact 5 seconds. Now, the reason why I have a a minor buff to intellect here is because it doesn't matter if I'm going to be at 91 or 96. You're going to get it back all the same. It only matters once you get to 100 or 90. So I just needed to be in that threshold. And in that, I was able to create a little space to put another mod on my Warlock bond. As far as the call, if you don't know what the call is, you've got some time, but go out and get it. I've got mine shaped with beacon rounds, vorpal weapon, flared magwell, and smart drift control. This thing absolutely shreds. Got 3,000 kills on this thing already. Probably just a drop in the bucket as far as what I'm going to end up with. And then backup mag. So you get your 14 rounds. Rarely do you ever need more than 5 to take down a heavier enemy. If you are running a GM or like a master sector, you're going to be spamming this weapon a lot, unless there's a different surge, or maybe there's something that might play a little bit better for the sector or the GM that you're running. Obviously, Graviton, that's going to be your add clear heavy weapon. Any kill that you get with those bouncing purple balls or with the weapon bullets itself is going to give you ability energy back. As far as the heavy, you've got a little bit of wiggle room as what you want. I like mine to synergize. I've got the Pro Memoria. I crafted mine arrowhead, ricochet, reconstruction, and target lock. This weapon is super easy to manage from a medium to long distance, so you can spam this weapon even though it is a 600 round per minute weapon. You can spam this thing with pretty much no problem. So regarding this class, you've got a couple of buffs where rapidly defeating enemies with this weapon is going to spawn you a tangle, period, point blank. So there you go. You're going to get some buffs automatically from that. Any ability energy that includes tangles, as well as, if you generate a tangle, you can shoot this thing. And when I show you the artifact mods that I've got, you're going to get a bigger threaded explosion. So I put the backup mag on here with the reconstruction in on this. This magazine generates 164 rounds. If I don't use it up until I get to majors or bosses or mini bosses, I got 164 rounds of pater to unload into whatever major enemy or boss is in front of me. So yes, it's not the most powerful heavy weapon choice, but machine guns I think are in a pretty good place as far as damage options with generalized content, whether you're in the Pale Heart or Vanguard or even Gambit. There are definitely better options, but as far as ammo economy goes, this Pro Memoria is absolutely phenomenal, and I really do like playing with it. Now, if you don't care about the ammo economy or your primary and your heavy matching so that you can take advantage of the Strand reserves and the Strand scavenger, you can absolutely swap this out for a void heavy. Some of my favorites, good old Commemoration. I've only got 2,600 kills on it, but I promise you I fire this thing at a ton more enemies than 2,666. Retrofit Escapade. I like this weapon not as much as I like the Commemoration, mainly because I like the reconstruction. But for target lock and 4 times the charm and the extremely fast reload speed, this is an excellent weapon to take into raids, heavy lost sector, master or legend lost sectors, or sometimes GMs, depending on your enemy type. Now, looking at you, Fallen Saber. Other than that, yeah, you might not want to use this because this is not a good weapon to use from a distance. The Faithkeeper rocket launcher, this one's kind of been slept on. It's a precision frame, which means it's got tracking abilities. So when you pair this with auto-loading holster and bipod, you get more than one round in the magazine, which means you can unload, some serious damage. If the Surge of the Week, which just so happens to also be Void, maybe a little bit of a coincidence there why I'm making this video, but because if you have a Void Surge going on, this thing will absolutely take out a boss from distance. So if you're trying to solo something, you're trying to do it from a distance, this is a great way, unless you have a really swirly boss. If you build it like I've built it, max out your velo with quick launch, get your impact casing because it is tracking, auto loading holster, and bipod. Get those two enhanced so you get your ammo regenerated, and quick access sling. This thing is absolutely going to put out some major damage. And if you happen to be running with someone who's running galley, you get those Wolfpack rounds in there as well. Now, the final important thing on this is the Hunter's Journal, the artifact. The reason I say this is important is because the way that I've got it built is you can get a lot of buffs within a very short amount of time, and all those buffs are going to do is make it easier for you to play. And again, with the extra sweatiness that Vanguard operation seems to have, any little bit of extra help that you can get, I think, is 100% worth it. First and foremost, anti-barrier pulse rifle. Kind of goes without saying, shoots through the pulse shields, shoots through the hive shields, and if you are doing that master or legend lost sector or GM and you're dealing with champs, this thing is kind of a non-negotiable, especially the Graviton, because Graviton pierces in like 2 or 3 shots max. You get your stun, and then you can whip out your unstoppable sidearm, which just so happens to be a special ammo sidearm in the call, and obliterate whatever you're trying to kill. Or you can whip out your commemoration, whatever you like to do. I have this selected because I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you another possible way you can build this class if you don't want to use the Unstoppable Sidearm. Next up, I got the Overcharged Armory, got the bonus to the Transposer, or the Dealer's Choice and Transposer, which is why that pairs well with any of the weapons that I showed you from this season. I got the Winning Hand, bonus to your Dealer's Choice weapons. Scavenger mods, obviously common sense. I want more bang for my buck, and any ammo brick that I pick up, since I'm running Strand on Void, I get bonuses to both my primary and my heavy weapon. Threaded Blast, this is a no-brainer. Shoot your tangle with a Strand weapon, creates a larger and more damaging explosion. Here we go right here. Elemental Siphon. Rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super. Create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. Do you know what your elemental pickup is? It's some grenade energy that you can end up shooting with your weapon. It's tangle. So you get your tangle, you shoot it, you get another explosion, you clear the room. This is a great option. And if by chance it does spawn a threadling, then guess what? You get that buff too. And all of those buffs, by the way, or all of these, whether it's a threadling or it's a tangle or whatever, you get buffed. It is considered an elemental takedown, a darkness elemental takedown. So you get your radiant when you get your orb of power, and then you get avoid a prismatic subclass equipped. We are running prismatic. Defeating weakened targets provides a small void overshield. You get that by just using graviton. So all these things right here, shield crush, you get the void overshield, but in this case you will get woven mail because you are running a Strand super subclass, or Strand super. And then here, void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. So if those purple balls bouncing around hit that major and you are running a void heavy, you can use that because that's going to be a weakened target. So if you want to whip out the rocket launcher and dump a couple of rounds into that major, you absolutely can. So all these things here, these are the four. Now you can take these off, but if you don't really like the void overshield, if you don't really care about the weakened targets because you've got the call and the call is already an unstoppable, I understand that. You can turn these and you can put these into something else. But honestly, for the way that I've got it set, these four right here are your money makers right here. This is a nice buff. This is a nice buff. Of course, I want more ammo. This is kind of a pointless one, but I've got this on here in case I want to change things up a bit. So, ways that you can change this up. If by some chance, let's just say you wanted to run, and I don't even have it here, so I got to show you really quick. If by some chance you didn't want to run Graviton and you wanted to run the combat bow. Now, this is a bow that is strong against overload champions. So it might not have an artifact mod buff for bows. However, this intrinsic gives you the overload champion stunning capability. So if you want to, for some reason, go away from Graviton and switch out to Le Monarch, that's fine, but that's going to be kind of redundant because you need those void kills. Now, you can switch this out for the exotic, but I'm just trying to think of a way that you can still clear out a room while maybe spamming another fan favorite, Rufus's Fury. And if you do that, then you could take these two off right here, and you can go right down here to targeting autoloader and sustained fire. So that's a way that you could switch it up so you can get back to one of, it's one of my favorites. I got almost 18,000 kills on this. Some people have, 10 times that. But Rufus's Fury is a fun one to use now that you have the artifact mods for auto rifles. But if you don't want to do that, the way that I've got it set up is absolutely going to decimate just about any kind of generalized content. But if you are running into that master sector, for example, and you don't have unstops, but you have overload, you can switch this out to Rufus's Fury, and then you can take out the top two mods here, put them down here, sustained fire and targeting autoloader, and you can run into that Master and Legend Lost sector and still pretty much spam Graviton from the distance. But when you see that champ, if you got Rufus' Fury with Reconstruction on it, that means you're going to get roughly 108 rounds that you can dump into Overload. I would assume sometime between now and the 60 seconds it's going to take for you to, well, not even 60 seconds, 720 rounds a minute. So what does that come out to? I don't know, something like, so 1/7 of a minute, whatever that comes out to. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds. To dump 108 rounds into that Overload and stun them, you'll be able to do it with Rufus. And you won't have to worry about ammo economy, unlike with the Call. So if you don't like worrying about a special ammo, then run Rufus. And then you get that Overload special. So that's the build. Obviously, this works for me. I like to pick things off from a distance. I also like a lot of splash damage. And the way that I've got my armor set up, I've got Siphons on every weapon. Not really compromised anywhere. With the way that Bungie's got it set up, there's really only one heavy weapon that you're going to be able to take advantage of. And that's going to be Whisper as far as the sniper goes. So, if you're not running a solar subclass, it doesn't really make sense to equip any of this the sniper rifle. Now, if you did want to run a sniper rifle, it would be kind of redundant because you've already got armor piercing with your pulse rifle here. But you could theoretically do that. You could run, you could run a Strand sniper here, get some buffs to those reoccurring shots. There's a couple of nice Strand sniper. There's really only one that I like. But again, kind of redundant because you've already got the Graviton is just so powerful. Even now, even with all of its nerfs, even with all the people complaining, even with all the inadvertent slow firing that it had, what was that, a couple weeks ago? We were all going through that. Graviton, really second to none. So anyway, so that's the build. If anything resonated with you, or if you have questions on anything, or if you're in the market, if someone in the market who's looking for kind of a fun green spammy yet purple spammy, Strand, Warlock, Void, centric build, this is a great build to run. It is something that I've seen some people talk about. It's not something that I see many people using on a regular basis. In fact, when I was build testing this before I made this video, in all the strikes that I ran, I was the only one that was running, well, first of all, Graviton, which I couldn't understand that considering it's the surge of the week right now. But more so, I was the only one running Strand with Void aspects inside the actual build itself. So if you've never tried this, I encourage you to try it. Void, again, any Void damage generates ability energy. So I'm not worried about my grenades. I'm not worried about my super. I'm definitely not worried about my melee coming back. So I want to take this into one of my favorite battlegrounds here. Well, it's not a battleground, but it's just a build test. Just so you can see Altars of Sorrow. If you don't ever go and build test anywhere except for maybe like Grasp of Avarice, or there's a couple of campaign missions that people like to spam. I know I like to spam. I actually have a video of that. Where to complete weapon bounties and stuff. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Maybe it'll help you get stuff done faster. But this is a great it's got all the elements of enemies that you want in order to kind of test your builds and see. You're going to see real quickly, once I get into it, how fast the ability energy gets regenerated, how fast my damage numbers ramp up, and essentially the crux of it all is just based on Graviton. So take a look. And you can see just kind of how this is built. I'm not exactly at readiness for using my super, but I also had to do some other stuff first. Like kill those wizards who were protected by their barriers. But you can see all the orbs that I've generated. See, I say that, I was already at like 60%, and then there you go. And that just comes down to using your super. So, this build is great because you can spam your super. In an onslaught activity, in an activity like this, or, you know, we've all been in those lobbies where we start out with 3 people, and somehow there's only 2, and you happen to be the only one that's killing anyone. Well, again, that's just kind of what this build is all about. Plus, you get your green buddies, you know, helping you out, giving you your buffs. And if you look at my left-hand screen, I'm gonna shut up for a minute, and I just want you to see kind of where. Oh, of course, I airmailed that, real nice. You can see all those are all mine, by the way. All those orbs that were generated. That was the melee. That was the couple of times I threw my grenade down. Of course, I'm wasting my prismatic now, but you guys get the idea. And you're gonna see, I've still got the armor charge. I've been out of combat for a while. I still got the armor charge, so I'm still running my recovery as high as possible. You know, and that's one of those things, I get comments like that all the time, like, man, I guess you'll recover your health at some point. But look at the buffs that go on my screen here. Look at that. 1 orb of power, 1 orb of power, 1 orb of power. Armor charge, armor charge, armor charge. Tangle cooldown. But again, am I really hurting for it? No. And Graviton is one of those universal weapons that you can pretty much spam wherever. I'm just going to throw this out there because I really don't care. But, you know, because I'm running a target lock heavy weapon. I mean, you see each bullet that I was hitting there. Oh, I nailed that one. Each bullet I was hitting there was hitting for 4,000 to 5,000. Between 4,000 and 5,000. Oh, see here, this is 7,000. So again, if you're dealing with a major or a boss or a mini boss that's kind of tanky, it's still a great weapon, even though you're not running something like Microcosm or Still Hunt or Whisper. It's still, again, you got 164 rounds to deal with whatever is in front of you. That's more than enough. And with the way the ammo economy is in Pro Memoria and being able to use Reconstruction, it is a great alternative to something like Commemoration because it's got better damage potential and it stacks than, say, like Commemoration or maybe even that rocket launcher I was telling you about. So anyways, as you can see, I got armor charges. It just ran out. Tangle cooldown just went out. I still got Devour going. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, like, you're always going to have a buff, especially in generalized activities. Now, if you're running a Legend Lost sector, you probably aren't running in and sprinting through it. You might, depending on your Titan build, if you like Titans, or prefer to run Titans or whatever. I have a lot of fun running Titan. But I'm a Warlock main. And so my main goal, I know it seems like I might be kind of all about myself here, but in sweaty content like this, all this is doing, and again, I know that I'm build testing here, but when you're in it, when you're trying to get through something, how many times have you been in it where both your teammates die on the boss, and you're just kind of left there, you're like the only guy left, dumping DPS into whatever boss you're facing while you wait for your teammates to revive. It's one of those things where, yes, this is a great class to absolutely decimate, but it's also a high survivability class. So you can run into that Legend Lost sector, you can run into that GM. Again, sometimes you're going to want to cater to the buffs, so if it's not Strand or Void, it may not be, you know, amazing to take that 25% damage fall off, but this is a good all-around class. You don't got to worry about ammo economy, really, because the call is super efficient with ammo. And when it does come time to face that major, you've got a Reconstruction style machine gun where you don't have to worry about reloading. And you also have that with Commemoration, but Pro Memoria just hits way harder. And I haven't even really used it since I airmailed my last one, but you get that you get a ton of Transcendence energy with this build because you are constantly spamming light and dark damage. So you get that back as well. Anyways, that's the video. I know I kind of ramble a little bit here at the end, but yeah, as you can see, like the flow of gameplay when you're in it is just second to none. So, and because not a lot of people think that, hey, if I spam a void weapon, I'm going to get my Strand abilities back, but you absolutely do. So take advantage of that. If you're a fan of Strand, you know, when Strand came out, I was a Hunter main. And when Strand came out and I got that Withering Maelstrom, I believe it's called, yeah, that's what it's called, I was in love with Hunter, even more than the previous years I'd been Hunter. Then I got into Warlock, and I kind of realized, you know, there's more lives to live in this game. So if you've been a Hunter, you're watching this video, and you've never tried Warlock, try it. Just try it. It does take some getting used to, but being able to pair Void with Strand, you can't do this with Hunter. You can do other things with Hunter that make you equally as powerful, but you know, this is one of those fun classes where you can use it pretty much anywhere. You're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to generate a ton of orbs, and you're going to generate also a ton of damage. So I did not realize that I was at the boss here. Is this the boss? Yeah, I think it is. But I'm going to cut the video out, and I appreciate your guys' support. Thank you for watching. And, you know, if anything resonated with this video with you, please like and subscribe. You know, I have a ton of fun making these videos. I don't have enough time to make them, you know, being a dad and running a business, but I really do appreciate all the support that you guys give. Whether you leave comments, you have questions, you critique me. Thinking back to the guy that told me I was saying the word melee wrong. You know, it's just been a lot of fun. So I really appreciate everything you guys do with supporting the channel. You know, and we'll see you next time. Take care.